So I'm going to be talking to you here for about 20 minutes, and the title of this talk is Approaching the Process Automation Singularity. So some of you might catch that reference. If not, we'll dive into what that really means as we go along. So first, just a few slides about ProcessMaker and our history. I know some of you are new to ProcessMaker or might be prospects or partner prospects. So quick history, I co-founded ProcessMaker in 2000 with a dear childhood friend of mine, Bobby Vernon. We actually set out to do something very different, but in 2008, we found our footing and launched ProcessMaker as the first truly easy to use yet enterprise workflow automation system. We re-architected that software in 2017 and built it on a modern microservices framework. In 2021, we announced that we raised a $45 million Series A from Aldrich Capital Partners to further invest in growth. And last year, we made our first acquisition, a company called Doculair in the Netherlands, a team of 20 really talented individuals who had built a wonderful product in intelligent document processing to bring this great AI-powered technology to our customers and help them in their hyperautomation journeys. This gives you a little bit of an idea about ProcessMaker. We're about 400 customers in 52 different countries. We're built on an open source solution that we launched in 2008 and rebuilt in 2017. That's been downloaded about 2 million times. We have about 3 million users using the product, running about 100 million yearly cases. We've been in business for over 20 years. You can see here some of our customers. We've got customers in most every vertical. A lot of customers in higher education, 250 universities now using ProcessMaker in higher education, about 50 banks using ProcessMaker, and customers in manufacturing, healthcare, telecom, pretty much every other vertical you can think of. We also we do very well in G2 Crowd, and we've won numerous awards. In fact, in G2 Crowd, we do very well against our competitors. For 10 quarters running, we've been a G2 Crowd leader, and also are in the Gartner and Forrester guides, and have leading scores with about 300 recommendations across those sites. So now getting to the topic of today. Due to the pandemic, companies are under more and more pressure to increase the speed of their digital transformation initiatives. 94% of CEOs report the need to maintain or accelerate the already intense pace of digital transformation incited by the pandemic. So what is leading to this increased need, this increased urgency around digital transformation? Well, it's a combination of problems facing the world. There's a massive talent crunch. I think almost everybody on this call is probably experiencing that in one way or another. Supply chain issues, inflation and other macroeconomic phenomena, currency crises around the world, and yes, even climate change, even global warming. All of these are threatening and currently disrupting businesses. And so for those businesses, most of those businesses are based on labor, and so this is affecting this need for digital transformation. As labor gets squeezed or labor gets disrupted, companies are looking for more and more ways to find competitive advantages. And the problem is digital transformation is not easy. Well, why isn't it? Why isn't it easy? Why, what's causing all these problems? Well, first off, most companies are not green fields. They were not born overnight. As a result, we cannot just model our ideal business process and have everything we wish for. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, we used to say that SaaS businesses, software businesses coming of age at that time, did have this luxury. They could build on an empty canvas. Remember Salesforce's disruptive campaign around no software in 2000 when they were attacking Oracle? Well, sure, they were a greenfield business back then, but that was 23 years ago. Salesforce is now legacy. It's now got the same problems that Oracle was facing back then. Well, what's holding established companies back? Well, first of all, they have data silos, so lots of data trapped in existing systems. Second of all, they have customers, and that's a good thing, right? That's the revenue that brings us our current business. But those customers have certain ways of working, and we don't want to disrupt those customers. Then compliance and regulation, that's changing all the time. things like GDPR. These were not things that have always been around. And so as these things happen, then business processes need to get changed. People, we've got people in our organizations, people with personalities, people with existing ways of doing things that they don't want to change. And finally, we've got system proliferation. In fact, according to data from Productive, the average enterprise now has a whopping 364 SaaS applications. That's a lot of different applications. Legacy tech, as I mentioned, and integration challenges have not gotten easier. We've got lots of systems. There's a picture from a kind of a higher ed ecosystem with lots of different systems trying to talk to each other. And we're trying to weave these together, and we're trying to do so with people. So you can see here that people have to make decisions based on this data in order to route the data, in order to approve the data, they're making these decision points. In fact, as you'll hear later in the talk, at some point, this idea that a human participated in these processes, that a person in your business had to approve or reject things based around data, that will be an anachronism. It will be something that our kids, or at least our kids' laugh at, just like they do when they see all these funny-looking gadgets in Stranger Things, like phones with cords on them. Hyperautomation is the solution to making these processes work better. Hyperautomation takes advantage of all the latest technologies like RPA, intelligent document processing, connectors, or what we call iPaaS, and your core tech in order to integrate effectively with the people and automate these processes. So let's look at what hyperautomation looks like in ProcessMaker today. Well, first off, we have RPA. We get asked about it all the time. And for us, RPA is a partnering strategy. We don't offer RPA today in ProcessMaker, but it's very easy to integrate RPA. And RPA is a way to do things that you can't do through an API. Gartner once called it digital duct tape. It's a way to get into systems where there is no sort of declared API. That's one major use case in a process for RPA. And we suggest that you partner around that. Then we have iPaaS or connectors, we have process modeling, and we have case management. These are areas where I would say we're strong, but where we also see customers who partner and use additional tooling. So although you might say, well, modeling is part of the core of ProcessMaker, yes, it is, but there's another technology around process modeling, which is just process modeling in order to look at risk and compliance, for example. We model in order to automate processes. Or connectors. You can build any connector you want in ProcessMaker, but there are also dedicated platforms that maintain and manage thousands of connectors. So think of something like a MuleSoft or a Dell Boomi. And case management would be another case like this. Then we have our sort of full-featured areas of ProcessMaker, and that's things like our web forms, and now our IDP, intelligent document processing, and document management, which previously was not the case, but through the Doculair acquisition, it is now the case. But really, the core feature of ProcessMaker is the orchestration engine. And this is really critical to understand. So it's about orchestrating these critical business processes. So you could potentially replace any of these other pieces with other solutions. If you already have a form solution, if you have a different connector solution, that's fine. You still need a hyper-fast, hyper-intelligent orchestration engine. We use the BPMN language model to do this. It's a very effective way to do it. It's very rich semantic and visual language. And that's really what is at the core of ProcessMaker. Now, I say that, and that's my view, and that's our view of the world, but our customers see things a little bit differently. And this is a little bit goes to what Alex will be talking about in his talk. They see things a little bit differently. So at the core, for them, is their core system, the ERP, and that's for all of you out there. So maybe that's SAP. If you're in higher ed, it's probably Ellucian. It might be QAD if you're in certain industries. It might be Jack Henry or Fiserv if you're a bank. So these are core systems, and these are basically legacy systems in most cases. And so our customers see ProcessMaker as a way to wrap around these legacy systems and provide a rich way to orchestrate all the things that you now need to do in a modern, fast-changing world. So customers and partners that need new interfaces, new ways to interact with data, new ways to sign up for services, compliance and regulations that change. You need processes around those. People, the way they're interacting and approving data to go in and out, who's approving data change in your core systems, because you don't want to be making those changes directly in your core system. The data silos of other systems, how are you getting data back and forth into your core system? And then finally, the system proliferation that we spoke about earlier. And all of this needs to be done very quickly, and there's a massive talent crunch that we mentioned earlier. So that is happening through low-code tooling, and ProcessMaker is a low-code tool. And you'll hear about no-code and low-code, and they really both have roles in the modern enterprise. But there is a game changer in hyperautomation, and that's AI. So you hear about it, we read about it all day long, but how is it really affecting our business processes? Well, remember this guy, Mark Andreessen? Of course, still around, very successful venture capitalist, investor. But in 2011, he proclaimed that software was eating the world. And really, since 2000, we as software companies have been developing ever more beautiful experiences and ever more beautiful interfaces. Why? Well, we didn't really realize it at the time. I don't think anybody did. What we thought we were doing was trying to make humans more productive. But there was actually something else happening that we now realize, and that is that as all these interfaces got better at capturing data, voila, we have collected more data, lots more data. And the interfaces got incredibly good. I'm talking about IoT devices, I'm talking about wearables. Those are interfaces. Those are the equivalent of web forms. You're just not inputting data, it's capturing the data. And so data started to explode. So we thought we were doing all that to make the life easier for humans. Really, what happened was this other thing, which was that data was getting collected at a massive rate and ultimately making AI king, making AI incredibly important. So, we talk about AI, there's lots of movies around AI, and AI could not have even planned this evolution any better, in fact, the way that this worked in order to capture all this data. Now, my marketing team told me not to get too sinister on this point, but let's play this out a little further. So effectively, the user is becoming less important in software. That is what is happening. Depending on your outlook, you might change that word from user to worker or even human. But let's focus on how this affects your business. So if you're going to remember one thing from my talk, it would be this. It should be this acronym, HITL, the HITL moment. This is shrinking. You're going to see a lot more about this acronym in the coming years. That's my prediction. So did you know that the US now has systems where the Army can set a target and let AI find the best route to that target? It's only a matter of time before AI both sets the target and finds the route to that target. So in this case, you're talking about AI eventually being able to do preemptive strikes that the Army wants to do. So not only will we have first replaced the soldier on the battlefield with the drone, then the person driving the drone, who are sitting in rooms, in different computer rooms around the US and around the world, but eventually the general won't even be calling for that strike. The AI will. So that's what happens when the HITL is 100% removed. Anyone know who this person is? Somebody can put it in the chat if they do. So this is a pretty important futurist, Ray Kurzweil. He talked about the singularity. Others have talked about the singularity as well. And you can see the title of this slide is 2045. That's the year he predicted the singularity would happen. The singularity being the moment at which machine intelligence is infinitely more powerful than human intelligence. And this is because AI builds upon itself and becomes once it surpasses a certain point, it becomes infinitely more intelligent. So for our purposes, I think there's a corollary in digital transformation, and that is the digital transformation singularity. So many of you, if you've been doing this since sort of the 80s and 90s and looking at business process automation, you'll be familiar with a business process maturity model. We still, in fact, talk about that in certain enterprises. And the model is changing, and eventually you'll see that the top of that model is the companies that have removed, let's call it 80% or more of their HITL moments. And so you'll be able to judge where you are on that business continuity model or business maturity model based on how many of those HITL moments you've been able to remove from your business. And that, in fact, is how you'll gain a competitive edge. So without going into the sinister or dark side of where AI could potentially go, we as business people running businesses need to think about it in a different way, which is we need to be working to remove those HITL moments. That is where the competitive edge will be coming from in the future. And this is why and how you should be applying AI in your businesses. And don't worry, our CTO, Alex George, will be talking about how we're going to help you do this at ProcessMaker. So think about how you could apply this to your current processes. So here's a typical purchase request process designed in the ProcessMaker modeler. And where are those HITL moments that we could remove? Well, here you can see two of them. There's a review PO and a director review of that PO. And many of you have like 10 or even 12 levels of this happening in your business. And I've seen those processes. And those levels will all eventually get removed. And even the beginning of the process could be removed. Why should I have to start this process by filling out a form? That could be done for me. And so, again, Alex will talk a little more about this, but I think that is ultimately the next frontier in process automation. Your process orchestration engine should do all of this for you. What we're saying is that ProcessMaker will do all of this for you. That is where we're headed, helping you find those HITL moments, helping you remove them from your business processes, making them more intelligent to help you gain a competitive edge in your particular business and industry. And for that, we will be talking about something we call the ProcessMaker automation clouds, and you'll see how that also relates back to your core systems and looks at the data that you have in those core systems, the processes and manipulations you want to make on that data, and helps you start removing these moments to gain that next competitive advantage. Again, considering that labor is, and most labor economists will tell you this, is no longer the way to start to find those competitive advantages.